So what I'm going to talk about quickly is, what it was like in February 1945. And for those of you who were there, I'm not going to tell you anything new. You guys know this backward and forward. But for the rest of us that are in the room, maybe just to set the stage a little bit, I'm going to talk about the 23rd Marine Regiment under the command of Colonel Walter Wensinger, whose name and my name are going to be on a piece of paper for the rest of eternity, because that's how it works with a regimental lineage. And then I'll talk about some comparisons to the modern day and the bonds and linkages that we have. So what was the big picture in 1945? Well, we were closing in on mainland Japan, and General MacArthur was taking back the Philippines. He said he would return, and he was on his way back. And up at the joint staff level, the decisions were made, well, how are we going to tackle mainland Japan? And we know that the Japanese were a very viable foe. They were very fanatical. And the determination was made. We were flying B-29 bombers. These were brand new, the Super Fortress, brand new airplane. They were so bold about this thing, they didn't even camouflage it. It was a silver airplane, okay? And we put several hundred of these out in the Marianas Islands. They could carry 4 tons of bombs. The old B-24s could only carry 2 tons. They could fly 3,400 miles. The B-24s could only fly about 2,400 miles. And so these were the new, biggest, baddest airplanes around. They cost about $500 million a pop. Now in today's dollars, that's about $6.5 million. That's a pretty good bargain, considering the Joint Strike Fighter costs about $260 million. With sequestration, we might go back to B-29s. But as the B-29s were staged in the Marianas, the Japanese were launching airstrikes against those bases and destroying some of them on the ground. The other thing is, as they would do raids over mainland Japan, they would come back. Some of them were crippled. They'd have to ditch into the sea. And so if you look at Iwo Jima compared to the Marianas, it's kind of part way. It's 650 miles south of Japan. And so this became a strategic piece because the Japanese were flying airplanes from there, and we needed more airfields in between where we were flying from in mainland Japan. So the decision was made at the highest echelons to that Iwo Jima was going to be it, and it was going to be the 4th and the 5th Marine Division, and also the 3rd Marine Division in on that. And so you have this operation that's being planned that has a logistical tail all the way back to Hawaii. So Tokyo is 650 miles away. You've got an island that's 5 miles by 2.5 miles. It's shaped like a pork chop. We're going to land 3 divisions on that island, about 70,000 total personnel, and not just Marines. We also had, of course, our Navy. We always have our corpsmen, our hospitals. We also had CB battalions, entire CB battalions coming ashore. And we also had some Army air defense. 485 ships, over 500 landing craft, and then you had an enemy task force of 22,000. Now, if you can picture 5 miles by 2 miles and cramming 22,000 people in there that have to go about their daily lives, that's pretty tight quarters. The 4th Marine Division packed 100 million cigarettes in the cargo hold. When you plan an amphibious invasion, you got to think about stuff like pencils, toilet paper. 4.1 million barrels of oil were used by the U.S. Navy to resupply ships, tanks, fuel for vehicles. You're thinking about every little detail, can openers, rations, water. All these things had to be packed in Hawaii and shipped out and loaded in such a manner that you can offload it with the ammunition and the water first, what Marines really need in combat, and the rest of the stuff comes afterwards. Medical supplies for all the casualties we expected. They had the forethought to paint and build white crosses, for thousands of them, for the American cemeteries that we knew that we were going to put on Iwo Jima. This is amphibious planning, and it's in some, it's an amazing feat in the amount of time they had to plan it, pack it, and move it out. It's an unbelievable feat. So I saw this, and I love this picture of him with his XO, because I like to stand around with my XO too and make plans with maps. And what I noticed is that, the canteen cup has not changed since 1945. I got the same one. When I go to the field, I shave and I drink coffee out of the same one. So although there's been great technology in coffee making and coffee consumption in Starbucks, I shave and drink out of the same cup as an infantryman And I take some pride in that, just like the XO of 28th Marines here. This is a picture of 123 on Yellow Beach. That was our beach. And you can see all the way to Suribachi, that's where 28th and 27th Marines would have been coming ashore there. So the CO again was Colonel Wensinger. He retired as a lieutenant general many years later, had a very interesting career prior to and after Iwo Jima. But his task on this day was to go into the middle of this line. And it's always hard when you're in the middle because you've got a unit on your left flank and your right flank, and you've got to coordinate the fires. Well, when we set up boundaries, one of the hardest things you got to do is make sure your Marines are shooting within their boundaries, and you got to trust the adjacent guys are going to do theirs. And so I didn't envy this tasking. When Colonel Wensinger got this task, he goes, gosh, you know, why couldn't I be one of the flank units, you know, like Harry the Horse over there. He's got it pretty easy. You know, his fires are all going to be moving in one direction, and it's less coordination. But this was a tough mission. 2 airfields, and then, you know, they had it planned out to take in the second airfield, and then they were going to do fragmentary orders after that. As the attack went on, you know, of course, it landed on the 19th, and if you look at this map, look at it at the top right, it shows your legend, and, you know, we're talking about yards. You know, this is not miles, or we're used to looking at kilometers or whatever. We're talking about yards and days. And so the Marines in the 23rd Marine Regiment, and also 24th and 25th that were part of the 4th Division with us, they fought for hundreds of yards in a day. And it was brutal, bunker-to-bunker fighting, and the same kind of stuff. Bring the flamethrower up, bring the satchel charges up, suppress the bunker, get in close, seal off those caves. And it was brutal hand-to-hand fighting in a lot of cases. Mount Suribachi gets a lot of attention because that's the flag raising, but when you come down and you want to look at where the real fighting took place, it really took place in the center of the island. And 28th Marines also, to their credit, they turned around after they got done with Suribachi. They were in the same kind of fighting too on the northern end. But there are places like the Turkey Knob, and this whole area here was known as the meat grinder to the Marines. And so they had to fight, again, bunker to bunker here for yards at a time. This is one of my favorite pictures. It's the command post of the 23rd Marine Regiment, several days into Iwo Jima. Now, when I get mad at my staff, I just look at this picture and go, well, you know, I guess it could be worse. There's junk all over the place. Things are messy, you know, and this has a calming effect for me, that somebody made order out of all this and continued on. I'm here to tell you the Marine Corps is in pretty good hands, and the young people you have sitting around here, you know, if they get pushed into that kind of situation where they would have to go over those kind of fire-swept beaches and gorges and hills, they will do it. Of that, I have no doubt. The uniqueness of amphibious warfare, I touched on that. You know, we had the Navy and the Army Air Corps on Iwo Jima. Now we do everything with foreign countries. Everything I've done in 3 years as a regimental commander has involved South American partners, Middle Eastern partners, Pacific. 72 hours ago, I was in the Republic of Georgia, where I've got 82 Marines training 2 Georgian battalions right along the border of Azerbaijan. They're training up there. They're going to train for about 6 months, and those battalions are going to go to Afghanistan and fight alongside Marines in Helmand Province. Everything we do now is with a combined nature, combined meaning other countries. Joint is with our services, combined is with foreign nations. So that's something. Field medicine is incredible now, and recently, I think right here in this club, Admiral Nathan, the Surgeon General of the Navy, gave a speech about naval medicine and you know, the technology now that's out there. And you know, whereas you know, Marines at Iwo Jima, there was a lot of cases of Marines that were wounded that would get moved from spot to spot, but their lives couldn't be saved. That has changed. Just the first aid kit that we carry is so advanced with quick clot technology. If you make it to a trauma center, you know, within that golden hour, your chances of surviving are in the high 90s percentage-wise. That wasn't the case on Iwo Jima. We did not have that kind of technology and that kind of equipment then, and we have it now. And the last thing I added on here was you know, prior to Iwo Jima, you had the Raider regiments, and old Harry Liversedge, he was a commander of the 3rd Marine Raider Battalion and then commanded the Raider Regiment. We now have this Marine Special Operations Command. We have 3 battalions, 1 regiment of special operations that now fit in under the U.S. Special Operations Command. These are Marines that, they're in the spirit of the old Raider battalions. Some of them right now have long beards. They're riding horseback in Afghanistan. They're immersed in the Philippines. They speak different languages. They immerse in other cultures, and they are an amazing force multiplier. Again, that springs from something that was started with the generation of our Iwo Jima vets, the Raider battalions. And when you go to their headquarters in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, you'll see all those Raider pictures up on the wall. We'll tell you that the fighting spirit and the soul of the Marines is pretty much the same. You can change the circumstances, you can change the arena, but we train Marines to be tough, to have the willpower to overcome and to succeed in any endeavor. And that's what we're about. It is a great pleasure to be here among you, and I look forward to talking to each of you in some more detail and savoring each of these lessons that you have shared with us over the years. Thank you.
So I want to tell you a little story first and read something to you about Joe Rosenthal. I was happy to be able to witness what was being done by people who knew how to do it. Those Marines saved the day and saved our country for us up to and including today. The reading of their exploits will create more patriots who will be willing to do the same if our nation ever calls. And I thought that was a great tribute to the Iwo Jima veterans, and he felt so close to you all. But you set the standards that we have followed since. To you Iwo Jima veterans, bless you. Hear, hear.